Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Now we saw that in this Vivekachudamani, the Guru, satisfied with the disciple and his qualifications or qualities, tells him that, assures him that you are the Paramatman. इस संसार में आप जुड़े हुए हैं क्यों? Because your knowledge, your understanding is clouded by अज्ञान. अज्ञान की वजह से ऐसे आप संसार में आप जूझ रहे हैं. So then the bondage to the Anatman, the proximity or the involvement with the Anatman, that itself is samsara. So the discrimination viveka between the Atman and Anatman will burn out the effects of Ajnana. So then, the Shishya asked the Guru 7 questions. पहले भी हम देखा. What is bondage? बंधन क्या है? कैसे उद्भव होता है? How does it arise? How does it continue? How is one released from it? What is this Anatman? Paramatman क्या है? What is the difference? How to distinguish between the Atman and the Anatman? तो विवेकचूडामणि सबको जवाब मिल रहा है. पहले हम देखा, first he takes up the 4th question. How is one released from bondage or mukti? Then the Guru says that one should study the scriptures, etc., develop vairagya, shamadamadi, sharshampati vagera प्राप्त करके, then should take up sannyasa, give up all karmas, and then by contemplating and discriminating between Anatman and Atman, by constant nididhyasana and meditation on the imports the scriptural text, then attains the state of nirvikalpa samadhi and realizes the difference of the Atman and the Anatman, and then finally knows that the Atman is same as Paramatman. Then we saw also why he says the importance of Tyaga, and we also discussed about sannyasa and how Swamiji, Dr. Swamiji, they have given a wonderful new message to this mankind, making it, beautifully comfortable for ordinary sadhakas like us. Then, we saw then the Guru takes up the next question, namely, Kosau Anatma. What is this Anatma? Then, so, because to realize Atman, one has to separate it from Anatman. ये दोनों के फर्क जानना चाहिए. So then the question is, what is really Anatman? Normally, we are aware of 3 kinds of bodies, namely Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, or Karana Sharira, physical, subtle, and the causal bodies. So he says all these are of the nature of Anatman. उसके लिए उन्होंने 12 reasons he has given. All of them come under one another. Stula, gross, because the body is, physical body is Stula Sharira. It's definitely it is gross. And then it is possessed. किसी का है, मेरा शरीर है, मेरा शरीर. I am the possessor of this body. So it is not independent. इसकी कोई स्वतंत्रता नहीं है. The शरीर is under the किसी को मालिकाना, is under the possession of somebody. I am the possessor of this body. I am the possessor of this mind. So because they are possessed, swatantrata nahi hai. That is why it is of the nature of Anatman, because Atman is something which is absolutely pure, Sachit Ananda Swarup hai, swatantra hai, kisi ko adhin nahi hai. It is not possessed by anybody. So it is this Sthula, Sharira, and Sukshma body, mind, etc. They are of the nature of Anatman. And then it is an aggregate, it's made up of parts. हम जानते हैं, I have heart, I have hands, I have legs, I have nose, eyes, etc. And even body and mind are also separate. So it's all full of parts. मन में भी आपका कुछ, one part of the mind is nice, another part of the mind is not so nice, one is happy, the other part of the mind is sad. If you think of something, there is happiness. If you think of something else, there is unhappiness. So, it consists of parts. Whereas Atman is the nature of unity. और उसमें कोई भाग नहीं है, उसके कोई parts नहीं है. So therefore, these are all not Atman, these are all Anatman. And then it's made up of gunas. We know we are made of Satsa, Raja, Tama, Gun. So whereas Atman is beyond the gunas, Gunatita, then it is, these three are of the nature of impure. We know the impurities of the body, we know the impurities of mind, etc. So स्थूल सूक्ष्म सब शरीर का अपवित्रता हम लोग जानते हैं. And then it does not exist in all periods of time. Because these things, they don't, त्रिकाल में नहीं है. Why? Because in deep sleep, in सुषुप्ति, आपकी तो स्थूल सूक्ष्म कारण किसी शरीर का अनुभव नहीं होता. You don't experience either the gross body or the subtle body or the karan sarira. So, the causal body. So obviously, only, of course, when you wake up, you connect, saying that I slept well. So thereby you infer that it was all there. But during that deep sleep, there is no awareness of all this. So obviously, it is not only that, the three periods of time, past, present, and future. So, though Atit mein, what was there in the past, it is not now. And what is now will not be in future. So, there is not something which is transcending all the three times, three periods of time, namely past, present, and future. So, because you constantly see every day, every moment, you see what has happened, gone. There is no reality now. Similarly, what is now will not be there in future. Whereas Atman, it is beyond the sense of past, present, and future. It was there before, it is now, it will always be there in future also. So it is something which is beyond the three kalas. And also, this body, mind, etc., they are constantly subject to modification, parivartan, parinam, changes. Whereas Atman is something which is completely beyond that. So, that is why, to make you understand what is Atman, is constantly telling you about the Anatman. What are the qualities of Anatman? So, again, these things are all limited by space and time, and also by objects. Because if the room is filled, you cannot come in. If there is there is a constraint of space, then there is constraint of time, and also objects. So Atman is something which goes beyond all that. Nothing can restrict it. And then it is seen and later not seen. Drashta nashta swabhava, they say. That is, it is also seen and it's also not seen. Because at one point of time you observe it. See, in deep sleep, you don't see the world. When you wake up, you see. And also, even in the waking state, sometimes what is right in front of you, you're not able to see because your mind is elsewhere. So, there is a kind of seen and unseen. In some conditions, under some circumstances, we are able to see, but then under several other conditions, it's not seen. So, there is another limitation, because Atman is ever present. It is never lost sight of, whether it's now, future, or in the past, or here, there, not limited by space, causation, or anything. So it's always there. So, there is nothing like drashtanashta svabhava, seen and later not seen. That condition is not there. And then these things, the Sula, Sukshma, Sharira, etc., they are produced, they are an effect. Because आपका शरीर तो उद्भव होता है, the body is produced out of something, the mind is produced out of something, the food that we take, they go to form the gross body, and from that the thoughts, etc., the subtle body. So, all that are all produced as a result of something, as effect. So there's a cause and effect relationship, whereas Atman is something which is neither, you can never trace any origin or cause to that, because it is ever present. It's always there. There is no point of time or no point of anything where it is not there. It's constantly, it's always there. Therefore, these are all whatever is produced, whatever has an effect, cannot be the Atman. Then these things, Sthula, Sukshma, Karna, Sharira, are known. They are not the knower. Because I am saying it is my body. I am saying it is my mind. So that means what? This body is known by me. So the body does not know by itself. The body is known by something else. Actually, the mind is known by something else. So they are not the knowers. Knower is something. The mind is able to know because there is something behind that. Through using that, the mind has the capacity to know, to gather knowledge, etc. So these are all of the nature of the known, and they are not the knower. Similarly, they are all ruled, and they are not the ruler. I बोला मैं शेर को बोला अभी कपड़ा पहन लो अभी गर्म कपड़ा you know wear winter clothing now summer clothing you go here you go there mind you see this you don't see this you participate you involve in this so constantly they are all being given directions ruled and they are not the ruler and then finally the 12th reason is it is dependent and not self-subsistent. The body and mind, they are completely depending on something else. Because if we don't feed, the body will die. If you try to concentrate somewhere else, and then the mind, it is dependent on the Atma that gives direction to that. It is not by itself. Suppose you say, no, I will not have anything to do with this. I will not think about this. If you try, you can give direction to your mind. Yes, it may wander here and there, but then again, the mind has completely under the spell of something else. So it is dependent and it is not self-subsistence. It is not Swarupe Avasthanam. It is not established in its own self. So it's not independently existing by itself without the support of anything. So all these things, that is why these are all, our Sthula, Sukshma, Karan, Sharira. These are all essentially Anatman. And in samsara, what is really samsara? What is bondage? Because we are involved only with this, either with the body or with the mind. Not even with Karan Sharira, which is just the nature of some kind of an ananda, which is just below the level of Brahman or that consciousness. But that also there is, the Sthula and Sukshma Sharira are constantly involved in this samsara, and that is what is really called bondage. So, then thus, yes, the Guru has completely eliminated what is called Anatman. Then, the Guru proceeds to, give the disciple a chance to determine the nature of the Atman. Atman kya hai? Abhi to Anatman kya vistar roop se bola. Now he is trying to tell him what is the nature of Atman. So, then he says it is separate from these kind of bodies, that is Sthula, Sukshma, Karan, Sharira. It is inmost, Antaryami, Antar hai, sabko andar hai. And then it is apart from all that and beyond all that. Not only as this, apart from the three Sthula, Sukshma, Karan, Sharira, it is beyond, it is something deep, that is innermost, and then it is self-existent. Swayam uski upasthiti hai. It does not depend upon anything else. The Atman exists by itself. So it is self-existent. It is eternal, undying. It has neither origin nor does it get extinguished or nor does it end. It is ever present. It is eternal. And then how do you get a glimpse of this idea of what is Atman? It is signified. It is indicated with the idea aham, 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 I. That's why one of these sadhanas in Advaita Vedanta, as Ramana Maharshi used to say, trace who is this I? Who am I? Who am I? It's a very famous sadhana which used to give, because if you go on finding out who is this I, ultimately that reveals that I in its purified status or stature is revealed as the pure Atman. So this I gives you an indication of this Atman. So it is the witness of the three mental states. All the Jagra, Sapta, Sushupti, all those avasthas are witnessed by this Atman. So it is different from the Panchakoshas, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya, all these koshas is apart from all that, our personality consists of these 5 koshas. What is the Annamaya Kosha, the food sheath, and then Pranamaya Kosha, the pranas, Pancha pranas, etc. That is another sheath. Simply the Manomaya, the mind, etc., etc. Then the Vijnanamaya, the buddhi and the intellect, etc. And then the Ananda sheath, also sheath, that's also our nature is, nature of, in somewhere, it's always because the Brahman, the Atman is the nature of bliss. At the individual level also, this Ananda is felt in some way. So that is called the sheath of Ananda or the Anandamaya Kosha. But then the Atman is beyond all that. It is Vibhu meaning all pervasive, it is everywhere. And then that illumines everything. Whatever we see, even the sun, the moon, the stars, the world, everything, they are all illumined only by the Atman. Natatra Suryo Bhati Natanda, Na Chandra Tarakam, Nema Vidyuto Bhati Kutoyam Agnihi, Tameva Bhantam Anubhati Sarvam, Tasya Bhasa Sarvamidam Vibhati. Even sun and moon are all lighted by him. What to talk about Agni or the fire? And because of his light, because of its shine, everything else is known, revealed, or everything shines. So that is the nature of the Atman. It's the innermost self of the sadhaka. You nihitam guhayam. It is in the innermost cave of the heart, they say, sadhaka. Then it is anadi, ananta, is the nature of sat, chit, and ananda, or this existence, knowledge, and bliss. So, Guru gives in detail the nature of the Atman to the Shishya, and then he takes up now the first question, namely, what is bondage? Bandhan, kya hai? What is bandhan? It because the identification of the Atman with the Anatman. Although the Atman is that Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta, Svabhava, due to Ajnana, it identifies itself with the Anatman. The identification of the Atman that leads to is bandhan or bondage or samsara. So, as a result of which, all that is Anatman, so all imagined are taken to be the Atman. And then our life's quest, why do we go after so many things? Because in our real nature, we have to pursue only the Atman. But because we have mistaken many of the Anatman items to be Atman, we constantly go after Anatman, that which is impermanent, that which is perishable, and that leads to bondage, and that leads to samsara. And then, then the next question as to how this bondage arose. So it is then, it explains there are two. Actually, in one sense, it's extremely difficult even to answer how this bondage arose, because now we say if Brahman is purely of the nature of Satchit Ananda Swarup, how does it get affected by Maya? That's why in Advaita Vedanta also, the position or the location of Maya, it's a very difficult question which they are also not able to answer very clearly. Because you see, why? Because all the explanation, whatever we talk, we describe, etc., they all happen at the level of the senses only. We are talking about the scriptures, we are talking about Vivekachudamani, but we are all, in the realm of, Maya, in the realm of senses, within the boundaries of the senses only. So we are using our mind, we are using our mouth, we are using our ears, etc., etc. So obviously, this cannot describe fully that which is beyond mind. That's why, again we quote that Yato Vacho Nivartante Aprapya Manasasa, where mind and speech came back unable to penetrate. So whatever we say, whatever we describe is within the realm of the senses. That is why there is always a shortcoming, a shortfall, or there is a limitation. So, beyond the point, it is impossible even to understand how this came about. Because if you say it is due to Maya, where is Maya located? Where is position? If Maya is in Brahman, then Brahman also there is Brahman as well as Maya. Then there are two things. Then Brahman is not, if it is within Brahman, then Brahman is not of the nature of, Satchit Ananda Swarup. It's not of the nature of existence, knowledge, bliss. is not of the nature of complete purity or supreme that blemishlessness or stainlessness. It is also stain, it is also a blemish, it is Maya, it has some anga, it has some part. So obviously, that loses its position as Satchit Ananda Swarup, as unitary consciousness, as one without a second. All those things, qualities become limited if you accept that if Maya is within Brahman. But if you say that Maya is apart from Brahman, then you are accepting duality. There is Brahman as well as Maya. That's why finally, it's always explained in the Shastras, Maya is Sat, Asat, Sat, Asat, Anirvachaniya Maya. Anirvachaniya cannot be explained, it's inexplicable. We do not know. We know we are in bondage. How it has come about is very difficult to explain. But what is the nature of bondage? Yes, we can say there are two types of powers of ajnana. Ajnana or the ignorant has namely two powers, avarana shakti, or which is traced to its tamasic component, which conceals the real nature of the Atma. And Vikshepa Shakti, which comes from its rajasic component, which projects the non-Atman as it were the Atman. So there are two things. The Avarana Shakti conceals. That's why they take always this famous example, Rajju and Sharpa, snake and the rope. There's only the rope. The rope, its real nature of rope is covered, is concealed by this idea, the appearance of the so-called snake. So now the Avarana Shakti, the real nature of the rope is not revealed, that is covered. What is Vikshepa or the distortion? That is, there is the apparent appearance of a snake, which is created, which is not there. So that comes from the rajasic component. So, therefore, of Ajnana, and namely, it projects as non-Atman as Atman, just as it projects Raju unnecessarily as Sharpa or the snake. And then when it goes, both the Avaran and Shakti go, then the true Atman is revealed in its true colors, and Rajju alone is there. There is nothing, there is only one. There was a covering and a distortion. When the covering and the distortion goes, the real truth is revealed. Then again, the fourth question, which about we have already explained in detail, again the Guru reverts to that, how this bondages, how it can be got rid of, how one is released from it. He says that to explain the nature of the Atman, unveiling it from the sheets of the Pancha Koshas, as I already said, the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya Kosha, and then, the Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karan Sharira, etc. See, in this, the Panchakoshas are Annamaya Kosha is Stula Sharira. Pranamaya Kosha is the vital sheath or the sheath of the pranas. And then the Manomaya is the mental sheath. And then the Vijnanamaya is the Buddhi or the intellectual sheath. And finally, the blissful sheaths. So when all these are separated, he says, then it leads to the answer for the seventh question of Dishya, namely, how is one to distinguish between the Atman and the Anatman? So, in this, the answer is found in a different context throughout this text. So, the Shishya was all along been, doing this vichara, as instructed by the Guru, and has been thinking how away from all these koshas as not being his Atman, and him separating himself from them. Now he's assailed by doubt. He thinks that I am not the sheath, I am not the physical body, I am not the mental sheath or the intellectual sheath, etc., etc. Then he gets a doubt and says, when I think I'm away from all that, apart from all that, I only see a void, I only see a shunya. What is behind all that? I don't see the Atman. And then the Guru replies, see, you are saying that you see only the void. Who is it that is seeing the void? Who is the witness of the void? He is the Atman. He is the objectless subject. He is the pure witness or the pure Chaitanya or the pure consciousness. It is the Sakshi which is aware of the Jagrat, Sapna, Shushupti. All these three avasthas, the waking, dream and the deep sleep, who is witnessing? This is Sakshi, or this Atman, or this self. How do you know? Yes, in the waking state, clearly we see. It's very clearly understood only when you talk about this deep sleep, because when you wake up, you realize that you are so happy, you slept happily. That means there was an undying witness or consciousness that was observing this deep sleep. Although during this sleep it was not possible for us to recognize, but once you wake up, through inference, you know that this is Sakshi which has been witnessed. So similarly, in the Jagrat Avastha, in the waking state, we can clearly see, because there is something, it's not just the eyes, behind that there are these nerves, then behind that the mind. Even mind cannot see something behind that is necessary to complete the vision or the experience of the waking world. Otherwise, you cannot see. And similarly, even mind also cannot do, because several times you say that, oh, my mind is elsewhere. It's right in front of you, you're not seeing. So, the instruments are there, the physical body is there, then the mind is there, and beyond mind, there is something called the Sakshi, the Atman. That is what is making you see everything in the Jagrat Avastha. Similarly, in Swapna, how do you see? You give wonderful scenes. You see sometimes beautiful gods and goddesses. You see Dr. Swamiji. Sometimes you get terrible dreams. You're afraid. You're sweating. You get up. You run. You see somebody has entered. Some thief has come. Someone has come with a gun. All kinds of dreams. How do you see? You see clearly. You see much more clearly. Sometimes the details, etc., you are able to see in the dream, you cannot even see in the waking world. But your eyes are not seeing. Who is seeing all that? So it is this Sakshi, the state of consciousness, which is beyond these three, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, and this is, which is beyond this, it's called Turiya, which is experience the state of Samadhi, the Chaturtham Manye, the Atman, or the Turiya, the fourth state, beyond Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. That is the state. Then that's the state of Samadhi. Then the Guru explains the nature of Atman encased in every individual. Then then he kind of takes this Mahavakya, Tat Tvam Asi, you are that. So then there is Tvam, there is Tat and Asi. Tvam is called Tvam Padartha, or Tat is Tat Padartha. So what is this? This is thus by all these, this Tvam Padartha, you are that, by this unlacing of the nature of this Sakshi. That Sakshi is that which is knowing all that. That in this Tattvamasi is explaining the Tvam Padartha, you are that. You are that Sakshi. You are that Sakshi which is witness to all that. You are the Sakshi through which you are able to know all that. Even if you say, I see only the void, who is that sees? It is that Sakshi. So that he clearly explains the Tvam Padartha. Then he goes to explain, the nature of Brahman. This Brahma Padartha is, Atman, or the self. And then he goes to explain the Tvam Padartha Brahman. That means, Tattvamati means Brahman or Atman is one, you are that. So, what is this Tat Padartha or Brahman? First of all, the Guru goes to distinguish the world from the Brahman, because the world is not real. Because if it is real, it must exist at all periods of time and must not be limited by space, time, or objects. So, it should be, when because of all this, it's not real, it is of a perishable nature. It's there sometimes, it's not there. In deep sleep, it completely vanishes, the world is not even there. So even also we see constantly right before our eyes the ever-changing nature of the world. So that which is changing cannot be permanent, because Brahman is of the nature of permanency. It never diminishes, never vanishes. There is no birth or death. There is nothing like origin or extinction, or that's being extinguished, because it's not of that nature. It's completely of the nature of ever-existing entity. So Brahman, the world is not Brahman. And then because Brahman is always there in Trikala, Atit, Vartaman, or Bhavishyat, past, present, future. whereas the world is not there. Every moment it is changing. What was there a minute ago, it is not same. So, and also what is now will not be there in future. So, because it is limited by this Trikala, the world is not Brahman. And then it is also, it is not, the world is, limited by the Desha, Kala, etc., whereas Brahman is not. And then Brahman should not also be the, cannot be limited by any of the 12 defects which we talked about earlier. So the Brahman is not real, Brahman is real, whereas the world is not real. Brahman exists in all places at all times and is everywhere. And then, but the world cannot also be said as completely unreal because it is seen, we experience it every moment, every second. So, in one sense, it is real, sat. In another sense, is unreal because it's constantly changing. It's not there in all the three periods of time. It's not there in all the three kalas. And no, it's also in different avasas. Its position is different in Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. So, it is also, it appears to be both Sat as well as Asat. But then, it seems to have its own character, which can be called as Mithya or unreal, or Brahman or the supreme reality is one without a second of the nature of pure Chaitanya or intelligence that is beyond thought and name, beyond any limitation by Maya and Upadhis. So it is supreme effulgence of the nature of consciousness which permeates the entire experiential world, and it's in and through it, it animates it. Whatever we experience, whatever we feel, whatever we are able to go through, all that is because ultimately it all comes from the Brahman, the Chaitanya. Yeah, just a glimpse of that, just a spark of that is what lights or brings about all the experience. So the world itself derives all from this Brahman. So of which is only an appearance. So that's why the world is of the nature of Mithya or unreal, in the sense that it's of the nature of impermanence. So that's why it's called Sat, is also Asat. So they simply call it as beyond. That's why the Brahman is beyond all that. So then now Tat Padartha and Tvam Padartha have been explained. Guru goes to elucidate the equation between the two. And this Tattvam Asi, you are that. What is the equation? The apparent distinction is because both are, respectively with their upadhis. The universal Atman becomes, circumscribed or narrowed as a jiva because of the upadhis. The Atman in its nature is Satchitananda Sarup, it has no limitation. But because of the upadhis are limiting adjuncts, it becomes jiva. It has this Sula, Shura, Karma, Sarira, etc., etc. And the Brahman, because of his, and also because of the, by the, so similarly, Brahman also takes upon some kind of limitations and becomes Ishvara. So when the upadhis are negated and taken away, these two padarthas are understood not literally, but by their implied meaning on that will be found to be not different from each other. Atman also is something is Satchit Anandaswaram. Brahman is also that. But because of the upadhis are limiting adjuncts, both appear to be a little different. And that is why there is a need to bring about this equation. You are that, Tattvamasi. So this meditation on the Mahavakya will bring the realization of the identity between these two. So, when that happens, the awareness of the world existing apart from Brahman will differ. Then no longer know when a person completely realizes the true importance is Mahavakya, not by intellect, not by reading, not by trying to understand, but through deep cogitation and that constant, that through the extreme vichara, viveka, and vairagya, etc. When he realizes, then the awareness of the world as apart from one would disappear, and the sadhaka will be suffused with completely the Brahman consciousness, the whole and the entire. This is, In the Vivekachudamani, I think they explain this experience as Swanubhava. And then the state is known as Brahmatmana Samsthiti. Brahmatmana Samsthiti. So, then here it brings about the identity of the Brahman and the Atman. So, here it says the separateness of the world as apart from Brahman will disappear. So if a person is completely established in the state, that's why, Thakur also often used to see when he went to Calcutta, when he went to other places, you clearly see that whatever was seen was just like a case, external. In and through that, the pervading consciousness of Atman, he could literally see, he could literally feel. Because, before he got the highest in Nivrikalpa Samadhi experience also, he stayed in Dakshineshwar. After that also he stayed in Dakshineshwar. What was the difference? Was it the same? Did the world or the Dakshineshwar or the temple or the pujari or the samagris etc. and the world outside, did it appear same to Sri Ramakrishna before and after? No. Before they all were individually, their existences, their realities were valid. But after realizing the complete oneness with as his nature, as his Swarupa, as Atman or Brahman, and after being immersed in the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, he could clearly see that everything was permeated with the consciousness. So he could not walk on a blade of grass because he thought that they were throbbing with Chaitanya. You remember that famous incident when boatman in the middle of the Ganga landed a heavy blow on the back of another boatman, struck in a stricken pain, and Hridaya literally saw a huge mark on his back. He asked, Mama, who beat you like that? Who hit you? I'll go and punish him. Sri Ramakrishna could not even answer because of his complete oneness with everything, the total that ekatma, aikyatva that bhavs, because of that, because he realized he was that nothing except that consciousness, except that Brahman and Atman was there, because of that unity experience, whatever was happening elsewhere was also happening on him. So, his experience of the world was totally different. Of course, he was not always in that state. He would literally come down a little, come to the world level of the existential world, and he would also participate. But the moment the mind would soar to that state of Brahmajnana or the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, where there was no distinction whatsoever, immediately you could feel that oneness, that Chaitanya throbbing through everything. Whether it was a fallen woman or it was somebody else, it was his pure disciples or anything, you would clearly see that all that was present was only consciousness. And then the Guru also goes to explain the danger of sliding from this great experience due to the action of vasanas. So, it's not that if you just get one, it's enough. One has to constantly be there, be established again and again. Then only it's possible to uh, be in that state forever. Because now, due to vasanas, the ahankara, the influence of ahankara and the effect of pramada or negligence. So, if you are careless, if you are negligent, and if you are full of ahankara and if there are vasanas, you can come down from that grade. We see that why even great sadhus, many others, great sadhakas, have done so much of sadhana, etc. But you suddenly find that they have come down from that and they are in a very ordinary condition. Warning the Shishya against yielding to these things which are very detrimental to the cultivation of Atma Vasana, he counsels him forever to be established in the contemplation of Brahman by concentrating mind on the Pratyekatma. So you keep on thinking about that your own deep nature, nature of Brahman. Think about the innermost self, Pratyekatman, which is inside. That will lead you to Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Then he will no longer look at the external world as independently real as it appears, and he will be immersed in the transcendental experience of the bliss of Atmanubhava. As a final counsel, the Guru emphasizes the importance of Tibra Vairagya, intense renunciation, Tibra Vairagya, Bodha, and Uparati for such leaders. Bodha is that getting that constantly that contemplation, the knowledge. Uparati is withdrawing the senses. You are not giving room to the play of asanas. So, that kind of actually normally it's very difficult for people to be in that state for long. Just Ramakrishna somewhere says, once you have that kind of Nirvikapa Samadhi, in 21 days, the body of a normal jiva falls off. Because it has nothing to hold on to or cling to. Sri Ramakrishna himself would forcefully say that I will take a little water. You may not even take water actually. Once Girish Ghosh was about to visit, he could not take because it was not the physical thirst. That vritti, that idea, trying to infuse a little idea into the body consciousness, generating it, thereby he could stay in the body. Otherwise, he would have he would have entered to Mahasamadhi long ago. But there was a different purpose for his advent on earth. So he would take hold of some such vritti and come down. So normally, if you are constantly immersed in that idea, and you're always contemplating only in his mind and the Pratyagatman, obviously, there will no longer be any participation in the external world. One will be always immersed in that kind of a samadhi. And then, there will be Atma Anubhava. And then obviously, one may not live long. The Jnani who has attained the Brahman consciousness shakes off his bondage to the experiential world. He is no longer in any bondage. The world does not make any impression on him, does not attract him in any way. He is not in any way kind of connected to the world. It said it, the world no longer affects him, it no longer bothers him. He becomes a Jivan Mukta. So even in this very body, he has become Mukta or the liberated. And then, then karma no longer affects him because his past, present, all karma, samskaras have all been completely burnt away by the fire of jnana. And so, in respect of future karmas, he no longer acquires any that kind of samskaras, or they no longer that karma phala, because there is no more that kartritva and bhoktritva bhava is neither a doer nor an entire, is neither a karta nor a bhokta. So, in the absence of a kartritva and bhoktritva bhavas, there is no further acquisition of samskaras or bondages to karma or karma phalas. There are no phala because he is neither a doer nor an enjoyer. So the prarabdha, whatever was remaining, just a little, that alone, and whatever was remaining, sanchita and all have been burnt away completely. It does not acquire any future karma. But the prarabdha, it has started already operating, it has already started, bringing its effect. That will, affect the body, helping him to sustain it. And it does not produce any effect on his mind, and it's no longer, it does not create any new vrittis. He goes about, just he moves about, but there is no sense of participation, there is no sense of involvement. He's not attracted, he's not attached, he's not bothered. So he lives till the small little amount of prarabdha karmas have already started operating. Till the end of that he will live, and once that is done, his body automatically falls off, and he becomes from the jivan mukta, he gets videha mukti, or the liberation after the dropping off of the body. So I think we will next we'll take up the qualities of a Jivan Mukta in the next class. So it's very clear, this is how the whole thing operates. Once a person gets that supreme knowledge, he may continue to live in the world, but he does not participate it in any way. He is not affected by that in any way. He does not create any more any sanskaras or new karma phala, no karma bandhana, because he has no sense of, doer or the enjoyer. He is neither the karta nor the bhokta. Therefore, he does not acquire any new sanskara or any new karma phala. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.